The restoration scaffolding reached the vault like a crude ribcage, the hollow interior of St. Verena Cathedral exposed to mortar dust and electric lamps. Dr. Constance Billet kept telling herself the project was routine. Underpin the south transept, stabilize the crypt, document any archaeological finds. Routine even after her probe sensor registered the cavity. No official blueprint admitted existed. 4 masons levered up the age-softened flagstones while Constance knelt with her clipboard. The first thing that escaped the gap was cold air smelling of cloves and raw marrow. When the portable lights were lowered, the crew saw steps chipped directly into bedrock, descending to a chamber perhaps sealed since the late Middle Ages. At the landing lay a ring of iron nails hammered upright to some folkloric safeguard, the kind she privately catalogued as ritual weirdness. Inside, heaped against the walls, were plague dead, bones, brittle as toast, jawbones tied with rosaries to keep the mouths shut. Yet the object that arrested every gaze was a walnut casket draped in a shroud embroidered with a single word: misery. Constance, gloved and steady, lifted the lid. Nestled in decayed straw lay a leather plague doctor mask, the beak lacquered black, the eye lenses rimmed with tarnished silver. Someone had sealed wax around the nostril vents, and an ornate buckle stitched to the strap bore the cathedral's crest. Father Lucien Maillard, St. Verena's confessor and de facto project liaison, stepped forward, fingers worrying a chipped ivory crucifix. "Seal it back," he murmured. "Some things are buried for a reason." But conservation protocols said otherwise. The mask went into a polyethylene tray, photographed, bagged, and locked. Constance studied it under ultraviolet that afternoon, noting faint residues: myrrh, dried hyssop, iron oxide blood. She wrote a paragraph for her field report, filed the paperwork, and left it in the sacristy safe until it could be transported to the diocesan archives. That evening a thunderstorm rattled the scaffolding like dice. Power blinked. Father Lucien, sleeping badly in his rectory room, woke to the sensation of applause, thousands of phantom hands clapping out of sync, echoing down the nave. He rose and paced, praying the litany of saints, but the noise persisted, a tide of invisible congregation. Drawn by instinct he couldn't name, he unlocked the sacristy. The fluorescent tubes flickering in and out, the mask resting in its drawer seemed to breathe, leather flexing. Tiny hiss of expelled air. His own breathing fell into counterpoint until, helplessly, he lifted it free. The inside was warm, as though a face were already waiting. When he fastened the strap, the lenses fogged, then cleared, giving the cathedral an impossible clarity. Dusk motes hovered like pinned insects. Incense residue painted the air in oily scarves, and everywhere he turned, spectral tableaux sprang up. Superimposed on the stones, he saw, all at once, every sin ever birthed beneath St. Verena's roof. Lovers in a side chapel fumbling beneath choir robes, a cardinal taking a bribe during vespers, a crusader confessing he had burned children alive and receiving absolution without penance. Generations of lies, thefts, blasphemies, desecrations, events, centuries apart, surfacing in the same instant, overlapping until time was meaningless. He staggered, palms to his ears, but the visions entered those skin, bone, soul. Finally, the kaleidoscope narrowed to one scene, burning brighter than the rest. A confessional, 20 meters from where he stood. The door trembled. On the other side knelt a woman, present tense, living. Sister Magda, the choir mistress. She whispered, "Forgive me, Father, for I intend to betray my vows tonight." Lucien tasted her conscience. The planned tryst in the bell tower, the keys already filched. The mask whispered a counterpoint. "Make her speak aloud. Purge the rot, else it will keep spreading." He found himself in the booth before awareness caught up. The grill slid open. Through the mesh, Magda's outline flickered between flesh and luminous X-ray. "Father," the word quavered. "Name your trespass," he said, voice muffled by the beak. She detailed the affair, the secrets, the small thefts of wine. As each word left her lips, Lucian felt pressure ease in his skull, the mask feeding on confession. But when she fell silent, a residual throb remained, indicating the balance sheet was unfinished. "Is that all?" His hand, almost independent, closed on the penknife he carried for slicing liturgical seals. I think so." The throb flared into agony. Somehow the booth smelled of plague roses. "That is not all." The mask spoke through him. "You dissuaded a novice from reporting abuse. You let a wolf roam." Magda's breathing hitched. She began to cry. "Yes," she whispered. "I was afraid." Relief washed through his spine. The pain was gone. For one lifted, buoyant moment he believed the matter settled. Then a tendril of foreign will curled around his wrist, turned the penknife in his palm, and lectured him in a language beyond hearing. Absolution is not avoidance. Blood is affidavit. The blade pushed through the lattice, a swift puncture beneath Magda's ear. Her shriek died as quickly as it began. When Lucian yanked the mask free, horror broke over him like surf. Sister Magda lay crumpled, lifeblood seeping under the confessional door. He vomited, whispered prayers, tried to summon emergency services, but the cathedral's phone lines were dead from the storm. By dawn, he had dragged her body to the sealed stairwell and tipped it into the plague pit, weeping so hard he nearly followed. For 2 days he avoided the sacristy and told himself he was ill, delusional, possessed. Yet the mask visited his dreams, dangling before his face lenses twin moons. Confession, it insisted, confession complete is salvation. Partial is damnation. The longer he resisted, the more the cathedral itself soured. Chalice wine to brackish fluid, choir notes to off-key wails, candles sputtering out mid-mass. By the third night, St. Verena felt like a rotting tooth in God's jaw. He capitulated. Wearing the mask became a grim liturgy. Its visions served as ledger, highlighting parishioners stained by hidden depravity. He summoned them one by one to the booth. Some confessed fully and survived. Others clung to omissions the mask would not tolerate, and the penknife, or incense hook, or silver candle snuffer found a throat or an eye. Corpses disappeared into the hidden crypt. Lucian justified each act as mercy, better a finite cut than eternal burning. Between killings he scrubbed floors, shrouded pews in plastic, calculating how long before the ledger cleared. Constance Belay, meanwhile, filed daily progress notes to the Heritage Board. She noticed Sister Magda's absence, then that of the elderly treasurer, then the head acolyte. Father Lucian supplied plausible reasons: retreat, illness, transfer. But his eyes developed the glassy distance of a statue. When Constance requested the mask for lab transport, he claimed it had suffered mold contamination and been moved to controlled storage. On the 10th day, Constance arrived early, intending to check the sacristy herself. She found the door unlocked. The tray was empty. In its place lay a note, written in Latin, Vox peccati clamitat. The voice of sin cries out. Unease prickled her skin. She crossed to the confessional, still dark behind its velvet curtain, and detected the faintest odor: cloves, hyssop, iron oxide. She dialed Lucian, no answer. Then the municipal police. By the time officers arrived, Father Lucian conducted morning mass as though nothing were amiss. The congregation thinned, but devout. Constance watched from the back pew while inspectors in plain clothes positioned themselves discreetly. Lucian's homily was on Jonah inside the whale. Jonah prayed within darkness, he intoned. He swore vows and was vomited out purified. During the Eucharistic rite he lifted the chalice. Red liquid dripped down the stem, spattering linen. Those nearest hissed in shock. Wine should not clot. One officer stepped forward. Lucian saw the motion, smiled with a rueful kindness almost paternal, and turned to face the assembly. The mask hung at his belt like a holstered weapon. "Beloved," he said, "I have borne witness to your inmost chambers. As a physician of souls I found gangrene, but I am tired of surgery." He fastened the mask. At once the nave erupted into visual cacophony. Only Lucien saw it, yet the reaction showed on his posture. He reeled, croaked a laugh, then pointed at random parishioners. "Adulterer! Petty thief! Twice you struck your child!" Each accused froze, blood draining from faces. Lucien beckoned toward the confessional, ordering them to queue. The nearest officer drew his pistol. Constance acted on an impulse born of long nights studying cursed reliquaries. Disrupt the bond by interrupting use. She sprinted up the chancel steps, seized the velvet stole from a hanger, and looped it twice around Lucien's neck, yanking him backward. The mask clattered and skidded across flagstones. Lucien howled, scrambling, but 2 officers pinned him. The congregation poured out, screaming past spitting candles. Constance stooped and lifted the mask. Even without wearing it, she sensed murmurings, residual sins baked into the leather-like grease. The beak pointed accusingly at every person, including herself. For an irrational beat, she wanted to don it. Discover what condemnation it held for her own history, nights she'd falsified carbon readings, crushed minor academic rivals. Knowledge, however dark, was tempting. Evidence collection was messy. Lucien's cheeks streaked by sweat, lapsed between Latin and gasping pleas, sometimes coherent. "It shows everything. I couldn't shut it out. They kept secrets, wouldn't speak." Officers charted his string of missing parishioners to the excavation pit, found the bodies in various states, some cradled as though laid to bed, some in hasty heaps. The press descended, labeling him the confessional butcher. A magistrate hearing decided the mask was central. Until forensic labs could process it, responsibility fell to Santiago Metz, head of diocesan archives. He insisted on personally escorting artifact and records to the secure vault. Constance, citing academic custody, rode shotgun in an unmarked van. Halfway through the fog-choked countryside, Metz asked, "You believe it's cursed?" "I believe cause and effect needn't be chemical to be lethal," she replied. The mask lay in a steel evidence box between them, but Constance could feel it query her pulse. At the archive, Metz stored it in a negative pressure cabinet. Protocol said no analysis until court approval. Still, 2 nights later, Constance's phone pinged. Metz wanted assistance with unexpected fluorescence. She arrived to find the vault door ajar. Inside, Metz sat on a swivel stool, mask affixed, humming Dies Irae. Blue sodium lights cast insectile highlights across the lenses. She froze. "Santiago, take it off." "I needed to see," he said, voice distant, lips barely moving. So much contraband, Faith. This whole place stinks of forgery. Constance assessed options, retreat and summon help, or act before Metz traveled further down Lucien's path. She inched around a table, eyes on the heavy evidence shears. "Let me try it," she said. "I need to document subjective responses." Metz's laughter rasped. "Documentation? You mean publication and tenure?" The mask apparently offered footnotes. He rose, raising an archivist's awl like an epaulet dagger. Constance slipped between shelves, heart hammering. Perhaps the mask's compulsions could be gamed. Feed confession, willingly, fully, to satiate. She stepped into the aisle, hands high. "Listen to me, Metz. I falsified a dig's provenance in Marrakesh to secure funding. I abandoned an intern in a collapsed tunnel to protect my reputation. She lived, but barely." The awl wavered. Metz's shoulders sagged a fraction. Encouraged, she continued, dredging every academic backstab. Each admission felt like scraping barnacles off bone. Tears blurred her sight. Metz trembled, voice cracked. "Not enough. The ledger is manifold." "Then you say yours," she pleaded. "Speak them and we walk out." Silence. The mask's lenses flashed. Perhaps Metz glimpsed his own sins annotated in fire. Slowly he began. Misfiled relics, doctored inventories, hush money for a sexual harassment claim. With each confession his grip loosened. At the final admission, selling reliquary shards on black market auctions. He dropped the awl and sank to his knees. sobbing. Constance saw her chance. She lunged, unclasped the buckle, and yanked the mask free. Metz collapsed, unconscious but alive. She held the artifact at arm's length. The leather pulsed. Hungry again, she considered every route. Deliver it to secular authorities, bricking it inside a lead coffer, burning it. But the beak seemed impervious. Fire might only free whatever miasma dwelt inside. She remembered the circle of iron nails and the word Monsieur. Someone centuries ago had understood containment. Returning it beneath St. Verena might be the only viable lid. By dawn, she had requisitioned the van, borrowed 2 novice guards, gagged Metz for his own safety, and driven back to the cathedral. Police lines still festooned the facade, but Constance flashed jurisdictional papers. She descended the scaffold, past the upright nails, into the crypt, where lime powder now coated the dead. She laid the mask in its walnut box, replaced the shroud. Around the lip she poured molten wax from sanctuary candles, imprinting it with her signet ring. The novices hammered fresh nails into a perimeter. As final measure, she set a brass placard, "Non-tangery, do not touch." Above ground, dawn filtered through stained glass. Constance inhaled dust, smelling of stone and lilies. She had not offered the mask her whole ledger, a withheld footnote. The intern hadn't survived. Constance had lied. The cathedral breeze caressed her like conditional absolution. She wondered if someday another restoration crew would ignore the warning, if another priest or scholar would feel that seductive weight. Probably. Relics, she knew, were merely mirrors. The danger was never the leather, the beak, the lenses. The danger was the human craving to know the worst and still imagine it could be managed. Outside, bells tolled prime. Constance looked up at their mouths, ringing warnings no one would parse. Then she walked away, rehearsing, in the privacy of her skull, the confession she swore she would eventually make, but knew she never would.